Oh, by the way, does Badasali know Badasali can maximize the window, the video? If Badasali hovers over the window, there's a like a block on the one side at the bottom right corner where the ticker is. If a person
Yeah.
clicks that, it makes the screen maximum size.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Um, Let me see if I can do that quickly. Oh, there's it.
Yeah.
Oh, mashallah. Alhamdulillah. Oh,
Alhamdulillah.
whoa.
Alhamdulillah. It's a huge difference.
Yes,
I
massive difference.
I only recently found it out, but it takes away the distraction of all the other stuff on the screen, and also it makes it easy to read things on the screen.
And for me, as an old man, I can't see so nicely.
Okay, I
So
see.
that makes a massive difference.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I'm going to start now, inshallah. Ameen. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين. اللهم صل وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome to the program Tawhid and the Creation, exploring the book The Essentials of Tawhid, book 3 in a series authored by Badasali Mani. My name is Muhammad Fasih Peterson, and in this program, in the last couple of weeks, we've been looking at the concept or the aspect of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala having created both good and bad, and understanding what that means. Once again, I'm joined by Badasani Mani. Badasani, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the show once again.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Muhammad Fasih. It's great to be with you in the studio.
Alhamdulillah, a pleasure having Badasani with us once again. And tonight, we will once again be talking about this very important concept and trying to understand it much better. The concept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created both good and bad. And in the previous program, we spoke about the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not do the bad or do the good. In other words, Allah does not commit the bad deed or commit the good deed. And we explain exactly what that means, that mankind, as the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, makes the choice to do something good or bad. And in the creation, Allah makes the creation serve his ability, serve him to give him the ability. In other words, to be able to throw a rock through a window and break someone's window, or to give someone a piece of bread. At the end of the day, he's only got control over his choice, his free will and choice. But certainly, there's so much to talk about still around this subject. So where exactly will we be going this evening, inshallah?
Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa ashabihi wa barik wa sallim. Muhammad Fasih, I think it would probably be good to just go back to how some of the previous groups believed, incorrectly believed, and to look at where they believed incorrectly and to see how have we corrected it as the Ahli Sunni wal Jama'ah. So I will, although we've touched on it, but in the way that they have gone wrong in the past, it will assist us to ensure that we don't make the same mistakes in our own belief. The question of the Jabariya and the Qadariya, how did they actually believe and what was wrong in their belief system? I think that would probably be a good place to start.
So, but certainly, just to then frame the discussion around these two groups, with the obvious question, who were these groups of people, the Jabariya and the Qadariya, and how long ago did they exist?
Well, we are talking about the first group that we're going to be talking about would be the Jabariya. They were a group of people that in the very, very early period of Islam, they were grappling with the concepts of tawhid and how to correctly believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the question that came up at the time was the question of um, predetermination. In Afrikaans, wat is uitgesit? Wat het Allah uitgesit? Those concepts, if we link it to the question of free will and choice, can be difficult to go through and understand correctly if we don't have the proper foundation in place. So what the Jabariya believed, they had this concept that nothing can go against the will of Allah. So everything has been predetermined. Whatever happens is the will of Allah. Now that point is absolutely true. Nothing can happen against the will of Allah. But they then rejected, on the basis of that part of their belief, they rejected the concept of choice, that we have free will and choice. In reality, they said we don't have free will and choice, and we can't be held responsible for our actions, because everything that happens in creation is the will of Allah. Now, the Qadariya on the other side said, but that's clearly not true. And they opposed what the Jabariya said. They said, we do have free will and choice. But where you've believed in total free will, total predestination, that everything is predetermined, we don't believe that anything has been predetermined. So they took the one part and corrected it, and they threw out the other part that was correct. So the Qadariya believed that we have been given free will and choice, nothing has been predetermined, and that we are given the ability to do whatever we please, and they took responsibility for their actions. They said, yes, we must take responsibility for our actions, but we have the right to do whatever we can. Now, within both of those concepts, we have difficulties as the Ahli Sunni wal Jama'ah, but in a sense that captures the summary of where these two groups actually went wrong.
Now, but certainly, when we start to examine these two groups and the arguments, and we're talking about a group that says that they are entirely responsible for their actions and they have total control over their actions independent of the creator. And then you have the other group that says they have no control over anything because nothing can happen without the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, at the end of the day, can man ever have effect over this entire, over himself and over his deeds and his actions? So with these two things, one might say, well, it seems like both arguments are true. So how does one then distill and get to the middle path or the middle road between the two arguments, where one has the correct view of what man's place is in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Muhammad Fasih, you are so right. There are aspects in both groups that's 100% correct. And what we've done as the Ahli Sunni wal Jama'ah, our scholars, our predecessors, they've taken the correct aspects and put it together. In a sense, this is the way we ought to believe when we claim to be of the Ahli Sunni wal Jama'ah. Firstly, we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did create us with free will and choice. We are different from other creation. Allah gave us the opportunity to choose. We are not going to be forced to do anything. Allah will give us the choice to choose what we want to do. Number two, we also said that it's a pillar of Iman to believe that there are certain things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has predetermined. That's outside of our control. It's a pillar of Iman. If we don't believe that, our Iman is incomplete or it is lacking. And we take full responsibility for all our actions. So if we look at what we believe compared to how they believe, then we have corrected both groups in the way that we present our belief. We believe in predetermination, and we believe not that everything has been predetermined. I think that's very clear. That, but we do believe in the concept that there are certain things that's been predetermined, but not everything, and there are other things that's completely under our choice. We take responsibility for our action, and we have been given this ability to choose. We are not under any compulsion. We are not forced to do anything. We have a choice to do what we wish to do. So this is the way we corrected it in summary.
The voice of Badasani Mani. This is the program Tawhid and the Creation, exploring the book The Essentials of Tawhid, book 3 in the series. And when we come back after the break, inshallah, we will continue. Tonight we are continuing our discussion on the concept that we understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one from where good and bad originates from, and how we understand that, and how we understand man's role in relation to his creator, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has charged him with, and what he is responsible for. When we come back after this break, inshallah, we will continue. Sadi, where should we go from here?
So I think now, where does good and bad fit in? So now we know we've got free will and choice. Good and bad. Did Allah create the good and did Allah create the bad? I mean, we normally associate goodness, and there's a common understanding. Good comes from Allah and the bad comes from us. So that would be one of the places where we would now go into the concept of correcting the understanding of good and bad, to understand it correctly and not assign things to Allah that's unbefitting.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back to the program Tawhid and the Creation, exploring the book The Essentials of Tawhid, book 3 in the series, authored by Badasani Mani. Tonight we are speaking about the concept and the fact that all good and all bad comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, Badasani, we look at good and bad with two specific themes. Good being light, bad being dark or evil in the sense. And what we find sometimes in our community is that people would say that, well, yes, the good comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the bad comes from myself. We've heard that being said. And also, when something is haram, I think I've actually heard someone say once that, for instance, because a pig is haram, this is what a person said once, and I was actually quite shocked by what they were saying. Because a pig is haram for us to eat, and for us to be in contact with, because it's najis, considered to be najis as far as we are as far as we as Muslims are concerned. This person said, well, the pig comes from shaitan. Almost as if they were saying that the shaitan created the pig because it is haram. And everything else that is halal, he was basically saying was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the pig is haram, so therefore it wasn't, in his estimation, subhanAllah, created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, that type of mindset exists. So how does one then explain to such people that even the bad comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Muhammad Fasih, if we use the example of this person, that the pig was created by shaitan, then it means that there are two creators as far as this person is concerned. One that creates evil and bad, and one that creates good. So in a sense, you are saying that there are two creators. That goes against the very basis of our belief. In fact, it is linked to the kalima. The kalima says there is no other God, there is no other creator but Allah. But yet, when people assign the ability of creation to anything or anyone other than Allah, they are in conflict with that very concept of the kalima that there is no other, la ilaha illallah. That you actually, without realizing it, you're actually setting up and creating partners for Allah. Now, the concept of bad must be understood in the way that we act on certain things, our behavior. Now, if Allah only created good and it was impossible for us to do bad, then Allah might as well have just created malaika. They are incapable of doing bad. They can only do good. Our purpose here on this dunya, Allah made it very clear in the Quran, um, chapter 67, verse 2, Allah says, and I quote, "He who created death and life to test you, which of you are best indeed." Allah made it clear why Allah created us. Now, to test somebody, it's almost like when children go to school, you have these multi-choice questions. One of it is right, the others are wrong. That's the test. That's how Allah created this. Allah created this entire dunya based on opposites. This world of ours, this material world, the dunya, is created with opposites. Life, death, beginning, end, good health, ill health, wealth, poverty, and all of the other things, illnesses, cures, you name it. And we are put on this dunya and we have to exercise our choice between all of these opposites. If Allah didn't create the bad, then there would have only been good. That's the one thing. Then the test would not have been the issue. And Allah speaks to us in the Quran and says, you will be tested. Now you test it with the opposite of being between one and the other, the correct and the incorrect. And then on top of it, it's the first point that we made. If you say that Allah did not create the bad, it means there's another creator that would have created the bad, and that would go completely against our belief system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created every single thing, the problem and the solution, the right thing and the wrong thing. But Allah does not commit the wrong. Allah created those possibilities that we must exercise to determine whether we are going to do this or that. It's like in Jannah. In Jannah, you can't do wrong. Allah removed that possibility of wrong and bad or evil in Jannah. It's not possible for us to do that. In the same way, if you go to Jahannam, there won't be an opportunity to do good. You are now reaping the results of how you live your life on earth. So the concept of bad and good is a very delicate thing that we must make sure that we don't fall in the trap of assigning limitations to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, you are saying because it's evil, you can't, Allah can't create this or that.
But certainly, can we say it's like, for instance, someone who manufactures glasses? He manufactures glasses and he produces it and sells it. Now, some people might pour liquor, they might pour khamr in it. Other people might pour grape juice in it. Some people might pour zamzam in those glasses. So the manufacturer made the glasses. There's an evil purpose that the glasses have been made for, but it's based on the intention of the people for wanting that evil to happen. And similarly, the intention of the people for wanting the good to happen. In other words, to pour zamzam or pour water in it or whatever else that is halal. And so ultimately, and so ultimately, the manufacturer is aware the glasses will be used for both things, and he knows exactly what his clientele is. They are going to use that for that purpose, and they are going to use it for that purpose. Can we say that that is the similarity that we would draw between that and when we talk about good and bad?
Very good example, Muhammad Fasih. Um, the manufacturer of the glass doesn't say this glass must be used for this or that only. How you use the glass is up to you. In Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's case, Allah created the possibility for us to use that same glass for this purpose or for that purpose. If we use it to drink water because we are thirsty, we will benefit from it. If we use it to drink wine, then we will have to account for using the glass in the incorrect way, and there will be a consequence. You'll feel bad, you'll feel sick, and whatever goes with drinking wine. So the manufacturer can't be blamed for having created the glass. The wrong use of the glass is based on the choice that the person who buys the glass and uses the glass, that person must account for how the glass was used. But the manufacturer made it possible for the glass to be used for either this or that. And we don't want to say that that's exactly how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it, because we're using worldly examples. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it possible for us to use the knife to eat with or to stab somebody with, if you choose to do. But Allah says, if you do it with for the wrong things, there's going to be a consequence. Allah didn't just create the knife without a purpose. Allah created the knife for you to choose whether you want to, but Allah also guided you to say the right use of the knife is to eat with it. Don't use it for that, but I'll give you the choice to decide what you want to do. But remember, there's going to be a consequence.
But certainly, perhaps another example that might also illustrate that point. Can we then say, if we look at what we're saying when we're using these examples, these worldly examples, that because I get the sense from people that when something was done to them that is wrong, and they've experienced evil in this world in some way, then they almost feel as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let loose this evil on them, in a sense. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, in a sense, subhanallah, persecuting them through this evil. Why would Allah allow this evil to happen? Why would Allah allow this person to humiliate me? Why would Allah allow that thing to happen that was so horrific? Why would Allah allow this or allow that? So they would say that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful, so how can we attribute something evil, something bad to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in a sense? How can it be possible? Then you find people on the other side who would say that if both good and bad comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why both? Why both? Why both good and why both and bad? And obviously, as Brasad has explained, Allah is in control of everything. But is the key maybe to understanding why things happen to us also not lying in the afterlife? Because we only see things as they are based on our experiences now, without accountability, without understanding the future, and without understanding that we will die and we will be resurrected and we'll be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being judged for our deeds. Is that also perhaps another key of how we need to look at good and bad and why we go through things in this world?
You see, Muhammad Fasih, when we go through a test in life, say we lose our job or you lose a family member, and it's accompanied with lots of pain and trauma, we say that that is bad, or that's not good. You've lost your job, and that falls in the category of bad. if we really examine, and inshallah, if time allows, we would like to deal with it. How should we actually deal with challenges and difficulties and hardships? Why are we tested? Is a subject on its own, and if time allows, as I indicated, we would want to go to that. But it goes back to the Quranic ayah. We have been placed on this dunya, and we are going to be tested for the time that we spend on this dunya. Now, the fact that we are tested, you are normally tested with things that's not easy. It's difficult to cope with it and to manage it. Does it mean because it's difficult to manage or to cope with it or to find solutions for your problems that that is bad? In fact, as we go through that understanding of how to deal with tests and hardships, we will see it's in fact a great blessing. It depends on how we respond. So the tests will be part of our lives for as long as we live. We will go through periods where we will be tested, and then we will get relief, and then you can be sure there will be another test, and then you'll get relief, and you'll get another test. It will be part of life for as long as we are on this dunya, because that's our purpose here, to be tested. We're not like malaika who have been created. There are some malaika that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. They do nothing else. They just stand like we stand when we in salah, in the standing position. They do nothing else. They've been created only for that. Then there are other malaika who are only created for sujood. They just make sujood, nothing else. The entire existence is they are only in a position of sujood. Allah made our lives different. Allah said Allah's going to test us. And Allah created the conditions, the good and the bad possibilities to test us. And that is what we must internalize that. So if we don't do that, then we're going to miss the point of why are we here? And then the horrible questions come about. Allah is not fair. Allah is testing me. I don't deserve it. I do more than this person, and yet I am going through these hardships. And as you've indicated, this is one part of the equation. The other part is the akhirah. There's a life after this. Every single thing that we go through, let's first say the bad things, the difficult things, the hardships, the tests, everything will be measured. It will be put on a scale, and there will be a weight attached to that measurement of that difficulty or test that you've had to endure. And then you will be compensated in the akhirah. And the benefit of the akhirah completely outweighs the benefit of what we get on the dunya. But equally, all our blessings, all the gifts and the favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us will equally be weighed as gifts that you were given on the dunya, and it will be measured against what you were supposed to do with that. And that is part of how we will be tested. So it's not easy just to look at life based on how things are happening on the dunya without taking into consideration what the consequences and effects of these things will be in the akhirah. Muhammad Fasih.
The voice of Buddhisani Mani. This is the program Tawhid and the Creation, exploring the book The Essentials of Tawhid, book 3 in the series, authored by Buddhisani Mani. And this evening, we are talking about the fact that good and bad comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we've explored this concept in previous programs, and tonight we're just going a little bit deeper, revisiting the concept, delving a bit deeper to understand exactly what man's role is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has charged him with, what he's responsible for, and what he is not responsible for. When we come back after this break, inshallah, we will wrap up. Stay with us. Brisani, where do we go from here?
I would say we summarize that Allah, and that you could, as you lead in, so what we understand, Allah created the possibilities for us to do the right and the wrong. We must just tie in the concept of the Jabariya and the Qadariya, the will of Allah, how should we then understand that Allah gives us permission to do things, yet Allah knows that we are going to do the wrong. How should we understand that? And Allah gives us the ability to perform the wrong, to execute the action, yet Allah knows that we want to do the wrong. I think just to tie that up, does it mean now that Allah has beforehand decided that we should do the wrong? And where would choice and the question of reward and punishment then fit in? Because technically, you haven't completely exercised free will in the total sense. It's waiting on Allah's will and Allah's power before you can execute. You can't do that on your own.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back to the program Tawhid and the Creation, exploring the book The Essentials of Tawhid, book 3 in a series authored by Butasali Mani. And this evening we are looking once again at the concept of good and bad only coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, Butasali, one other thing that we want to maybe explore as we try and understand these concepts and unpack them this evening. When we talk about someone doing bad or someone doing good, can we say, or should we say, that because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the conditions, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything, that by virtue of the person doing a deed that is bad, for instance, that Allah wanted that person to do that bad deed, or the fact that the person is doing a good deed, that Allah wanted that person to do a good deed, so therefore he did it? Because if we say that, then it takes it out of the hands of a human being, because we're saying it was already preordained. So man's only executing what Allah wanted him to execute in the first place.
Muhammad Fasih, it gets very deep. And we can spend a lot of time on this to really get to the finer points. And even tonight, we might only be laying the basis. But we must understand that no one has ability. Ability comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the person and every action. Does that therefore mean, well, what it means, before we can do anything whatsoever, two conditions are waiting to be met. Does Allah give us permission to do it because Allah's will is above our will? Number one. And number two, we won't be able to do what we want to do if Allah doesn't give us the ability or the means or the power to do that. Now, that can't be looked at in isolation. We have to look at the fact that Allah has put us on this dunya, firstly, to be tested, and secondly, we are not forced, like the malaika, to behave in a particular way only. We have the possibility of becoming like an animal or like a malaika, and we in between. How we use our choice is going to determine where we land up in the akhirah, and we will be rewarded or punished. Now, the ability to do something, we must never say because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us choice, we can now do what we want. We would be believing like the Qadariya. They believe that they can do their own thing. Allah doesn't interfere. And they actually, in a sense, on their own, they're independent. They have their own power. They can do with that power what they want. That would be incorrect. And to believe that you've been given free will, that your will is such that you can do whatever it is that you want, you would say that your will is, for example, almost next to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will as another will. When Allah created you, Allah created another will that can oppose or is not dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. Now that would be extremely dangerous as well. So what we say, yes, so Allah does have to give you power before you can do anything. Allah does have to give you permission to execute your choice. But does it mean Allah decides for you what your choice should be? That is the thing that we must focus on. Allah does not decide what our choices should be. Allah makes it possible for us to do whatever it is, good or bad. Yes, we need Allah's power, we need Allah's permission, and Allah allows us to do it, but Allah does not determine your choices. I think that is the essence of it, Muhammad Fasih.
But Sally, it seems that we have come to the end of this program, and inshallah, I look forward to us continuing this discussion because I think there's a lot for us to unpack and to understand in order for us to get these concepts clear in our mind, and also so that we can not only grow our iman, not only understand our role better as Muslims, but also then perform our deeds more consciously with the understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us free will and choice. I want to say a big shukran to Bidasani and all the best inshallah. And yeah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Muhammad Fasih, and the listeners out there.
And if you would like a copy of the book, The Big Bang, The Amazing Human Body, or The Essentials of Tawhid, or any other books in the series, you're welcome to visit www.salimani.co.za and visit the books, the segment or section on the website where the books are, and you are able to download them in PDF format, inshallah. Well, from myself, Muhammad Fasih Peterson, until I speak again, inshallah, I bid you assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and have a safe evening further. So I just want to check my messages. But Sally, I'm going to stop this one and then I'm going to send
Yes.
Sally another link because then this will be saved as a separate video. It'll be easy for me to cut
Okay.
it and save it. So let me just do this. I'm going to stop this video, then I'm going to send Sally another invite.
Okay. So you want to continue with this one?
Yes. But what I mean is I'm going to stop this video.
Yes. No, I
I'm
understand
going
this.
to log out and then I'm going to send another invite because I'm
Yes.
going to stop this one so that this will be a separate video because
Yes.
what I do is I copy the link and I paste it into a site on the internet and then I download the audio from here.
Okay.
So I want to have it in two separate files, inshallah. So I'm going to just get out of this one. First in broadcast.